right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Fearcast. This is the podcast dedicated to OCD and anxiety spectrum disorders, and getting your life back. I'm your host, Kevin Foss, and I'm a licensed therapist specializing in OCD and anxiety spectrum disorders, as perhaps you imagined. Thank you all so much for joining me today. So this is a question and answer based podcast. If you are new to it, you can send me questions. Go over to fearcastpodcast.com, click on the submit a question link there. You can go over to Instagram. I'm Fearcast Podcast over there, and you can send me a message by clicking or sending me a DM, I suppose. Like clicking on the DM button. That's what I'm supposed to say. Click on the DM button. Send me a direct message, and you can send me an audio question, and those go to the tippity top of the list and get answered first and foremost. And you cut the line. And I just think those are great. I think you all think they're great. They're great. Anyhow, but if you send me a text question, I will also read it, consider it, and likely put it up on a future episode. Before I jump into everything, if you are a listener of the podcast, you like the show, hopefully you like the show, go over to iTunes or wherever else it is that you listen to your podcast. Give the show a rating, write a review. It really helps the podcast, helps other people to find it. You found it, obviously, so hopefully if you are getting something out of it, someone else will get something out of it. Another great way to get the name out, go over, if you are part of a group, if you know other folks who are maybe struggling with some OCD, some anxiety issues, tell them about it. This podcast, I don't do any advertising for it. It's just all word of mouth, and it just all happens to be out there. So if you enjoy it, awesome. And I'm probably going to be putting up a survey again. I ran a survey a couple years ago for how to improve the podcast. I'm always curious about how I can make this show better, more interesting, more listenable, and better meeting your needs out there. So I'll put that together and announce that soon, but until then, you can always just message me over at Instagram, and I will likely respond to that if you have any questions or concerns. So another thing I wanted to mention just at the very top, another announcement, is that my practice, Cal OCD, is going to be starting a group. So we're going to be doing an in-person anxiety group at our office in Fullerton. And so if you are in the LA, Orange County, Inland Empire of Southern California, this would be a great opportunity to join a group where we're going to be doing a lot of the same. We're going to be doing the same stuff that we do in individual therapy, doing CBT, exposure and response prevention, acceptance and commitment therapy. It's going to be goal-oriented, focusing on trying to do exposures and getting out there and challenging yourself, all in a supportive, empowering group dynamic. So if you have been looking for something along those lines, you can feel free to reach out to me. You can either give me a call at my practice. That phone number is 714-423-3779. You can also just email me. My email address is kevin@calocd. I know I try to keep it super complicated, but if you're interested in the group or wanting to learn more about it, message me over there. All right, now that the announcements and stuff are out of the way. So I've got a couple of questions we're going to do, but I have a quick poll for everybody else out there. So first, I hope everybody is doing well and had a good weekend and are setting themselves up for another great weekend coming up. For all of you students out there who just graduated, congratulations. That's a big deal. You're moving on to the next phase of life, whatever it is. It's exciting. It's scary. It's change. And, change comes with it, the fear that it's going to be terrible and not as good. There's the optimism that maybe it's going to be good and better than what it was. And it's going to be a mixture of the two, but I hope it leans more towards the better than it was. And oftentimes it is. So best of luck to all of you. For the rest of us who are just kind of working and living life, we just kind of do this. We're going to do this until we're dead. So hopefully that's not for a while. But we're all going to see. I am in the middle of putting in sprinklers in my house. So I might have complained about this before, But every weekend I've been just digging holes in the ground, buying pipes and just burying it and hoping for the best. And it's working so far. I'm doing it like little chunks at a time, and it's kind of getting there, which is super fun to see it all work. But here's my question for everybody. So I got a little controller. You get a little controller box that tells the system when to run and how long and all sorts of crazy nonsense that it will do. But you can name it because it runs through Wi-Fi, because everything is a smart system now, right? So it runs on Wi-Fi, but you get to name it, and you get to name it whatever you want. I don't want to name it like its default setting. It's boring, right? So I want to know from you, what would you name a sprinkler system? And I'm curious what sort of creative, punny, fun, odd, perhaps even inappropriate name would you give it? And it's rife for it. It's a sprinkler system. It like sprays water everywhere. It like rains water down on the ground. Like whatever. I'm putting this out there because I want to know the creativity. I want to harness the creativity of the Fearcast audience to see what you would suggest as a good name for my sprinkler system. Or the sprinkler system box, the controller. Thus far, the running winner in at least my house is April showers. So, I mean, it works, right? It's cute. It's punny. It's almost like a person's real name. You can yell at it. You can insult it if you want to, but you don't really need to. I mean, the robot is actually quite nice. But if you have a better name, something that would be funny or cute, let me know. Send me a message over at fearcastpodcast.com. You can go over to Fearcast Podcast at Instagram and let me know. And if there is something that is hilarious and awesome, one, I'm going to share it on a future episode. And two, it will win, and I will change the name of it. And I'll prove it all to you. I don't know how, but I will. So that's your challenge, everybody. Send me a message. Think about something fun and creative. I want to hear about it. My family, I don't know if they want to know, or if I don't know if they care, but well, they're gonna see it. So it's gonna be fun. I think so. All right, let's get off to the question. So I've skipped a couple episodes. I skipped last weekend because it was Memorial Day weekend, so I was with my family doing crazy stuff. And two, I was trying to put in that sprinkler system. Saturday, I went outside at 7 a.m. to start working on the thing. I did not go back inside for the most part, other than like go to the bathroom, getting water, until 6 p.m. And I was just outside working the whole time. A couple of trips to Home Depot. If you don't go to Home Depot more than twice, did you really do the project? You know what I mean? Anyways, homeowners or people who do projects will understand that. All right, so I'm going to pack this episode with a couple of questions. So it's kind of a range of questions. Hopefully, I won't spend 30 minutes on each of them, as I sometimes do, but I'll just kind of go through some of these and answer a little bit, a little smattering of questions from the backlog. And hopefully these are interesting. Hopefully these are relevant to all of you out there, or at least some aspects of it. So let's jump into it. So this first question comes from Josh. Josh says, could ROCD stem from depression? Because I have suffered from inner depression that built up over the years. Also, is obsessing over some physical flaws a form of ROCD? So, Josh, thank you so much for sending that question in. So I'll answer the second part first. So is obsessing over some physical flaw a form of ROCD? Absolutely. Absolutely. I often hear, I don't know if often is the right word. I will sometimes hear, now I'll say it. I often do hear about folks who struggle with ROCD about their partner. And generally speaking, there can be a pattern of obsessing about their partner's physique, and some aspect of it that makes that person somehow disqualified from, long-term partnership, from marriage, from continuing on in the relationship. It also seems to be an obstacle in the way of that individual fully loving that person, fully committing, fully feeling attached to this person, fully being happy within the relationship, being fully satisfied within the relationship. And that can contribute to that obsessional fear. What if I'm never connected? What if I'm never fully happy? What if I'm going to find the love of my life and they're not going to have this, awful physical flaw, and I'll finally be happy? What if? And that sends them down the rabbit hole of obsessing and going over and over and over. So, is obsessing about someone's physical flaw a form of ROCD? Absolutely. But it follows that same sort of pattern. Number one, all right, let's go back to the pattern. It follows that same obsessional pattern. What if blank is true? Well, I don't want blank to be true. You know what I better do? I better do X, Y, and Z, compulsions, to make sure that that blank never happens, or at least I feel better about that blank, right? So with that, it's sometimes the obsessions can be, or the compulsions about it can be trying to get that person to change that physical flaw. It can be trying to convince themselves it's not. It can be a hyper focusing on that physical flaw. It can be a lot of internal checking of how one feels about their partner. Do I feel attracted to them? All right, I notice that they have this flaw. Do I feel turned on by them? Do I feel attracted to them? Let me compare to other people, to that person over there. Well, they don't have that physical flaw. How do I feel about them? All right, let me compare this feeling to the feeling I have about my partner. Is it more? Is it less? Is it different? Right? There can be obsessions about the past, and this is a mental compulsion, comparing that current relationship with a past relationship. Well, they didn't have that, so how did I feel about them? Was it better, worse, different? Let's imagine a perfect, fantastical person who doesn't have that physical flaw. Do I feel better, different, worse? You get the point, right? So it sends this person into just this loop of trying to figure this out or try to convince themselves that they'll be fine. And there's a bunch of other stuff that they might do. Ultimately, you're never going to get to an answer as to whether or not you're going to be happy forever, whether or not this person is the person for you through ruminating. You're never gonna. Additionally, we always have to recognize that no one here is perfect. Josh, I hate to tell you, you have physical flaws too. You ain't perfect. Let's put the shoe on the other foot. Maybe your partner is obsessing about you. Oh my gosh. They have ROCD, or they might have ROCD. I suppose you didn't say you have it, but let's say you do. Oh my gosh, they have ROCD. Can I really be happy with this person? Can I really connect with this person? What if this person is going to constantly be questioning me for the rest of our life? That's not the sort of stable, trusting, connected relationship that I dreamed of as a child. Is this what I want? Right? Now, everyone has something that we may not love. And it's not to say having OCD is a, quote, significant problem. It's a hiccup like everybody does. Everyone gets something. We have a physical health thing, we have a mental health things, and the lucky ones of us have both, right? But the goal in this would be to say this person across from me ain't perfect, and this person in the mirror ain't perfect neither. But you know what? I'm going to try to make this the best relationship that I can, and I'm going to try to focus on them. And I'm going to acknowledge that there's this thing, and I'm going to acknowledge that there's this temptation to go down the rabbit hole with it and to try to explain it or to try to ignore it. And I'm going to say that's part of who they are. In the constellation of who they are, it includes that. And they also have all these wonderful things about them that I like and that I love and that I'm attracted to and that is fun. And we're going to shift our focus to those things. And we're going to try to make the best out of that relationship as we possibly can. We're going to try to shine that turd of a relationship up as shiny as you can get it. Throw some glitter on it and make it so pretty, so pretty. And hopefully in that process, we will be able to keep moving that relationship down the line. And remember, if it is an awful relationship, everyone around you tells you it's awful, you don't have to be in that relationship forever. The problem oftentimes in ROCD in these cases isn't the person, it is the process of obsessing and the fixation on a thing. So minimizing compulsion is going to be key. So the first question you asked, though, is could ROCD stem from depression because I've suffered from inner depression that built up over the years? So ROCD, OCD in general, doesn't necessarily, I would say it doesn't stem from depression. OCD and anxiety disorders and depression oftentimes go together. I expect that if I see someone with OCD or an anxiety disorder, I expect that I'm also going to see depression. Because, as a wiser person than me said, you know what? It's very anxiety provoking to be depressed, and it's very depressing to have anxiety, right? And if you think about it, if your life is ruled by something that, rationally speaking, you know doesn't make sense, it's a struggle in your life, it stops you from doing things that you want to do, it makes you do a bunch of stuff that you don't want to do, you feel like you're in a cage, you're not in control of your life, and that sucks. And that can lead to depression. So, OCD has a biological component to it and a social component to it. So if someone has OCD, there's likely a genetic component that contributed to it, that they were likely to have OCD, or they are going to express an anxiety disorder in the form of OCD at some point in their life. And sometimes life experiences can push them over the edge of that. Sometimes just the life that we have, the situations that we're in, the experiences that we've had can contribute to OCD-like behaviors. So there can be a lot of maybe family background stuff that could lead to this, maybe some cultural things that can lead to that. And you know what? You could just come by it naturally, Josh, and just have it. So the answer to that second question, or that first question that I answered second, is no. OCD or ROCD does not just come from depression. All right. Josh, thank you so much for those questions. I'm going to move on to Stressed Girl's question. Stressed Girl asks, hello. First of all, I just want to say how amazing your podcast has been for me. You are an amazing person and who helps so many. Well, thanks, Stressed Girl. That actually means a lot. All right, she goes on to say, I've struggled with HOCD, or sexual orientation OCD. You all know that we use that both those terms exist. Anyways, she writes HOCD. I'm going to read it how she writes it. Okay. I've struggled with HOCD since the beginning of lockdown 2020, when I was triggered by a gay couple on a TV show. I couldn't shake it, and I wasn't aware of HOCD at the time, so I was so distressed. I would literally throw up every day due to stress. Once lockdown ended, my life went back to normal, and I felt like myself again. I got a boyfriend, and everything felt good. I still struggle with getting waves of OCD sometimes, and sometimes it's bad, and other times it's manageable. There's been times when I've had to have my family come up to my uni to check on me because I get in such a depressed, anxious state. My OCD seems to come from a few things. Firstly, the HOCD, which is so frustrating because it just feels so unreasonable. Yet, I can't reason with myself. I also greatly struggle with ROCD. You and Josh. I greatly struggle with ROCD, which I find so hard, and I love my partner so much, yet my brain tells me I don't. And then I struggle with a few other things that don't impact me as much. If you have any idea on what could help me, do let me know. I tried to go to therapy, but I get too anxious to actually go. Should I try again? Thank you. All right, Stressed Girl. Great question. I'm sorry that you're having to go through this. And yeah, remember lockdown? Lockdown was a weird time for everybody. Let's just put it at weird. It was a disastrous time for a lot of people. It was a great time for some people, but what a weird time in our life. Periodically, I just reflect back on, remember when, this is in America at least, remember when toilet paper was currency? It was contraband? It's bonkers time we all lived through. Anyways, so Stressed Girl. So you're kind of talking about the interplay between sexual orientation, OCD, ROCD, and that idea of going to therapy. So I'm going to again answer the second part first. Yeah, go to therapy. If you're going through this and you're struggling with it, and at times you are so distressed that your family needs to come up and talk you off a ledge, yeah, go to therapy. Now, Finding a therapist is tough. We're weirdos. We're very much weirdos. I've met not all of them. I've met a lot of them. I am one. I'm married to one. They're weirdos. So if you found one that was a big old weirdo and you didn't want to talk to them, find a different weirdo. Find a weirdo that you like to talk to, that's your right kind of weirdo, that meshes with you, that communicates well with you. And just like dating, it may require going to see him a couple of times. Now, hopefully, you can give this new weirdo a call and you can ask them questions about OCD treatment and their perspectives on OCD and their success with OCD and what sort of methods they use. When you're trying to find an OCD therapist, the IOCDF has a great list of questions that you should find to ask that prospective therapist, especially if they don't immediately identify themselves as an OCD and anxiety specialist. That list has a lot of great questions that you can grill this person with so that you can get an idea about whether or not they know what they're doing, or at the very least are a reasonable human that can try to figure some stuff out for you and with you. Anyways, so hopefully in that initial conversation, you can kind of get a vibe for whether or not they're going to work well with you, go to their website, read a little bit about them, that sort of stuff. And if you go to that first session or that, couple of sessions and you go, I'm not feeling it. You're not married to this person. You can always break up with them, and that's okay. I tell people who are trying to work with me, I say, you know what? I could be the best therapist in the world, but if you meet with me and think that I'm just a big old giant weirdo and don't want to talk to me, we're not going to get any work done. And I'd rather you say, I don't think it's working. And I'll go, great. Is there something weirdo that I'm doing that I should stop doing? And if not, if it's just a bad fit, I want to try to connect them with someone that is their right kind of weirdo. All right. So some of your questions, though. It's important to remember that sexual orientation OCD and ROCD, they really go hand in hand, right? So sometimes there can be this, what I would encourage you to think about is like, what is at stake? What is the worst thing for you? Sometimes it can be that I just don't really know myself. Sometimes it's going to be that there's something in my life is going to change, or I'm going to discover something about myself that is going to irrevocably change everything. And that's scary. And there is natural uncertainty with the progression of life. I don't know what's going to happen later today. I don't. And something could happen that could change my life forever. But that's the same for you, stressed girl, as it is for me, as it is for Josh, as it is for Lisa, who will be answering her question here shortly. There's a natural amount of uncertainty that we all face in our life. One of those things is, am I going to be happy forever? And I don't know. Is this the person for me, or would I have been happier with somebody else? There's simply no way for us to answer that. Now, there is some discussion, and you can listen to my episode with Chris Tronston just recently about sexual orientation OCD, and he kind of talks about there's an element of our sexuality that we can know, and I think there's a lot of discussion. There is a lot of discussion happening around that, especially as a lot of OCD therapists, we talk about accepting uncertainty and the fact that things can change, and I'm going to stick with it. Things do change, and we discover things about ourselves through our life. However, there are a lot of things in our life that are very consistent, and very few things in our life change completely, whole 180 turns. But we're never going to discover those through rumination. This is one of the reality points of things, is you're never going to discover whether or not you are truly gay, or whether or not your partner isn't the right one for you by sitting there and thinking about it. You already have all the information you're going to get today in this moment. The only way that we get more information is by living life, going out and doing stuff, having dates, carrying on your relationship, building intimacy, building trust and vulnerability, and having experiences together and traveling together and all this stuff. Meeting other people as well. And in the course of doing that, we discover more that we like this person, or that we go, they're not really for me, or we suck at traveling together. And maybe that's something that you can deal with, or maybe that's something that's like a deal breaker for you. I don't know. But rumination checking the past, attempting to predict the future isn't going to get us any new information. Living life will. So it's important so what can you do to help? Catch yourself when you find yourself ruminating about the relationship, ruminating about the future of it, ruminating about your sexuality, finding yourself giving into mental or emotional compulsions of checking or evaluation or comparison, right? All those things. Call it out for what it is. I'm doing a compulsion. I'm trying to solve a problem that I can't solve right now, and I need to hold back. I need to take a breath. I need to slow it down. And I need to anchor myself in what I know is happening today. What's happening for me right now? I am sitting at my computer staring at the text of your question in my office. I don't know if you can hear the AC in the background. I hope not. I've had a bunch of coffee, and I've got a whole cup right here that I'm going to have a little bit more of. Okay. Oh, coffee is so good. It shouldn't be. I haven't had that much, actually. If you remember from a few episodes ago, my terror of maybe I'm having a heart attack that was thwarted by science. So thank you so much, doctors. Now, it doesn't mean I'm not going to have a heart attack. It just means I'm less likely than my anxiety suggested in the moment. So I'm back to drinking coffee. Less than I have. Anyways, back to you. I sidetracked myself. So the rumination about your sexuality and relationship are not going to get you anywhere. So check yourself when you are, or catch yourself when you're about to go down that path. Redirect back to things that you do have control over. Meaning, I was talking about me in this office. Yeah, I'm sitting in my office staring at my computer. This is what I know right now. What's going to happen later today, I'll see when I get there. And when something happens that dramatically changes my life, or even minorly changes my life, am I willing to deal with it? Am I confident that I can manage the change, that I can navigate those changes? Doesn't mean that it's going to be fun or happy, or that I will want all of those changes, but am I willing and able and ready and confident in myself to deal with it when it comes? And I have to rely on that. So when things change, you know what? I will evaluate the situation when I get there, if I get there. But until then, there's literally nothing for me to do. And anything I do more than sitting here and waiting for the future to arrive and doing the things that are important, like continuing to record this podcast, is going to be a waste of my time and is only going to separate me from living my life and doing important things here and now. So stressed girl, when you find yourself getting in your head about your relationship or your sexuality, acknowledge it. There it is. Thanks, brain, for looking out for me. Thanks, brain, for trying to find the pitfalls in my life. And thanks, but no thanks. We'll see when we get there. I'll deal with it when I get there. And until then, I'm going to keep sending out my emails, or I'm going to keep studying for my tests. Or I'm going to call up my partner and we're going to go out and go do something fun, right? Shifting and putting your focus and attention on things that are of greater meaning and greater value to you is going to be more important than rumination and checking. Now, when you get into that really depressed state, yeah, it's important to have those safety people in life, the people who you can connect with, and also some of those safety behaviors that you can do, some of those comfort things. Now, depression can be a whole separate conversation that I suppose we can have. It's really important when we're feeling depressed to stick to the things that we are intending to do. Now, we can take some time when we're feeling depressed. Maybe, if you get depressed and if you just need a day to yourself, just to kind of get your head together, be peaceful, relax, watch TV, eat comfort foods, do those sort of things, awesome. And then get back to your life, get back to your relationships, be around other people, do the tasks that you're committed to doing, even though it's hard, and even though you might not feel fully present and fully enjoying it. Do it anyways, because you're a lot more likely to get out of a depressive slump when you live your life than if you sit in your room staring at the wall. You'll give your brain more of a chance to get interested or excited or have a different emotional experience when you're out and about than when you are sitting and doing nothing. So that can be worked out with a therapist. You can talk to a therapist. Your personal weirdo will help you to talk through that and to help you find some things that you can do. But you know what? If your family needs to come up and help, that's very generous of them. And I'm glad that you all have that relationship. But also think about what are the other things that you can do when you're in that depressed state that help you shift out of that. So stress goal, we could talk about this for 100 more years, but I shan't because I'm going to get off to Lisa's question. So Lisa asks, so she says, "Oh my God, please help me!" Exclamation, lots of exclamations. She says, "I have hyper-awareness of thoughts. It's beyond anything I can handle as my thoughts do not flow. I'm not going in and out," meaning, gosh, I don't even know. She says, "All I know is I'm so inward, it causes pain, headaches, blurry-eyed, off balance, and a lot of thoughts. Like I'm trapped in my head, the what ifs." And she says, "I feel like I'm going to die and it hurts. And my mind is going blank where I can't even think or form thoughts at all. Help." She says, "It's been like this for 2 years." She also then says, "I also have HOCD and weird, intrusive memories and everything." All right, Lisa. Let's slow it down. When we get stressed, when we get anxious, we sometimes go into that hyper panic mode and we get into that comparison. And sometimes, as you said, like with this hyper awareness, maybe you're going in, you say you're going inward, maybe you're going so inward and just so much effort and energy and stress is placed on what are my thoughts? Where are they going? What do they mean? What's going to happen? Am I in control? Am I not in control? If I'm not in control, what's going to happen? Is this ever going to go away? Right? It disconnects us from life, and sometimes in the process of becoming hyper-focused on something, it can exacerbate the presence of something, and it can bring on a lot of other physical issues. Anxiety, a lot of anxiety can wreak havoc on our body and can cause a lot of things. People can have blurry eyes, people can have headaches, people can feel very disoriented from high levels of stress, and it can exacerbate physical pain. You can have stomach aches, you can have heart palpitations, right? All sorts of things can happen. Now, slowing yourself down and acknowledging the physical experiences you are having. And that can include thoughts, and that can include the physical sensations, and that can include the emotions that you're having, and saying, I'm not going to fight the fact that it's happening. I'm kind of getting the sense in what you're talking about that you kind of notice a weird thing happening in your mind, and you've got these thoughts, and you've got these intrusive memories, and this sexual orientation, OCD, and all this stuff, and that you're kind of getting into this fighting. ACT would call this the struggle switch. In other words, something's happening you don't like. So now you turn on this switch, and that's your battle. You put on your armor, you get your sword, and you're ready to fight. But that takes a lot of effort and energy. And what are you fighting? You're fighting something that you have no control over in the first place. It's like yelling at the sky. It's yelling at the sky and getting mad that it's raining or getting mad that it's not raining. Your yelling ain't going to change it. It is raining or it's not. In the moments that you, Lisa, are experiencing these internal thoughts that you notice, you have that awareness of whatever the thing is that you're noticing, gently welcome it. It doesn't mean you have to like it or say, good, I want more of it. But you can say, that thing is there. It is raining. It is sunny. It is hot. It is, I don't know, tornado-y, wherever you are. It is. And there's nothing I can do about it. But me being angry at it, me stressing myself out at it, being angry at myself for having it or allowing it or like whatever it is, whatever you're doing to fight it, all of that is only going to exacerbate the problem and make it worse for yourself. We compound the issues with our struggle, and when we're trying to just fight something that we have no control over in the first place. So, I'm not here to ask you to do something that's impossible. All right? This is hard, though. It's hard to say this thing is existing and I don't like it, and I'm going to do nothing about it. Nothing. Now, it's the active step of doing nothing. You are doing nothing. But the doing of nothing is within your control. You get to decide what is it that you're going to do. In this instance, you're going to do a whole lot of nothing. Now, within that nothing is going to include the something of saying, yeah, there's that feeling, there's that thought, there's that sensation, there's that memory, there's that intrusive image, there's that narrative, there's that voice in my head that keeps saying the same thing over and over again. It's this, it's this, it's this. It's going to be obnoxious. And it's going to be frustrating. And you're going to welcome it. You're going to welcome it and let it be there as a temporary thing. Because all these things have been temporary in the first place, right, Lisa? They were there for a bit, and then they go away. And then they were there again, and they were really loud. And then they went away over time, right? That's kind of how weather works, right? It's windy, it's hot, it's sunny, it's tornado-y, it's snowy. And then it stops. And then it turns into something else eventually. Kind of like this. It's there for a short period of time. That narrative that it's never going to go away is simply a lie. And the compulsion to try to force it out or to try to convince yourself that it is going to go away forever is all useless. The reality is it's there, it's gone, it's there, it's gone. Some things will be there, some things will be there and will be there for a short period of time. It will never come back. Some things will be there for a period of time and go away and come back and go away. You get the idea. Maybe you treat these things then as temporary experiences. Here it is. And what can I do to ride through this? Alongside it, not in opposition to it, but alongside it. All right, I've got this headache. Oh, the headache sucks. Well, what can I do with the pain is I can, maybe get some ice pack and put that on my head. That'll help. Yeah. But I can do that, but I'm not going to ruminate about whether or not it's going to go away, whether or not I am bringing it on, whether or not I should be blamed for it. But I'm going to make it feel better by putting some ice on my head. If you're feeling off balance, have a seat. Relax a little bit. It sounds like in those moments you're working yourself up and actively forcing yourself in that it may just make it worse. So maybe take a break and shift your focus into something more peaceful. Shifting your focus into something that's more focused outwardly, not focusing inward, but outward, right? Maybe it's saying, all right, I feel out of sorts. I'm going to call my mom and I'm just going to have a chat with her. You know what? I'm going to call my boyfriend, girlfriend, and I'm going to have a chat with them. I'm going to text my friends. You know what? I'm going to go on Facebook or the Instagrams, and I'm going to just see what's going on there. Some may argue that this is thought suppression or avoidance, and you know what? There'd be a good argument for it. But you know what? Sometimes that's going to be a lot more beneficial and more reasonable to you than sitting there and fighting with your feelings and ruminating about whether or not it's going to go away. And we're going to let the feeling be there as you are scrolling Instagram, looking for that next post, or going on Reddit and trying to see what the next sovereign citizen video is. That's what I'm probably doing. They're so good. So much schadenfreude in that. Oh my gosh. I should be ashamed, but I'm not. I'm really not. Go check them out. They're super fun if you're into that type of thing. If you hate them, don't watch them. Anyways, Lisa. It's going to be a lot. It's going to be a practice of acceptance and redirection away from them. You're spending less time trying to figure this out or solve it or answer it or eliminate it because you're never gonna. But you're going to live alongside it and know that it's sometimes there and sometimes not. I've talked about this before. Well, two things. Well, one, I've talked about how I have tinnitus. I've always had tinnitus, and sometimes it's there and sometimes it's not, and sometimes it's louder than others. Now, when I focus on it, it is louder. I notice it's there. It's almost like when I turn my attention, I'm doing it now. When I turn my attention towards it, like the volume just like cranks up just a little bit, and it's there. And then I have to live alongside it because what's my other option? Fight it? It's never going to go away, and that's okay. It's here with me. And I can still do my podcast and have a conversation with people while it's here. Now, I've also had back pain. Now, luckily, my back pain is significantly better, but man, I'll tell you, putting these sprinklers in has been a challenge. I periodically feel it. And when it's there, I kind of go, okay, I know it's there. Now, do I then keep pushing and doing the thing that's making it worse? No, I ease up a little bit on the thing that's making it worse, but it doesn't mean that I quit everything that I'm doing. I may take a minute to relax, stretch just for a minute, focus on that feeling as a temporary thing that I can stretch out, and then I'm also then going to attempt to get back to my life as best I can while being attentive to the physical pain that's there. If you're experiencing physical pain, you can treat that as physical pain, but also continue to focus on your life. Now, I also recognize mental health and physical health are going to be experienced differently, and one is not better or worse than the other, but I think there are some things that we can learn from them. That's why I bring them up. So, Lisa, I'm so sorry that you've been struggling with this hyper-awareness for a long time, and it gets better. It does. If you push at it, or if you push at it, you live with it, you push through it alongside it. So I hope this was helpful, Lisa. So to Lisa, to Stressed Girl, and to Josh, thank you so much for all of your questions. Thank you, all of you out there, for being so patient with my episode scheduling. I realize that sometimes I'm inconsistent and it is not my favorite thing, but I do appreciate your patience. So if you have follow-ups to this, if you have your own question, go over to fearcastpodcast.com, go over to Instagram at fearcastpodcast, and send me your questions over there. So thanks so much, and have a good day. Thank you for listening to the Fearcast. If you would like your question answered on a future episode, please click on the Submit a Question link at fearcastpodcast.com. If you would like your question answered sooner, please send me a recording of your question to questions@fearcastpodcast.com, or by sending me an audio message through Instagram by DMing me at fearcastpodcast on Instagram. If you like the Fearcast, please write a review on your podcast platform of choice. Please remember that the Fearcast is not a substitute for psychotherapy. If you need a little bit of help in your recovery, please go over to fearcastpodcast.com and click on the Find Help link, and there's going to be some information for you there. So until next time, take a risk, challenge yourself, and don't take your brain too seriously. Bye.